What magic, or what fiend's infernal hand rears my tormented ghost from Orcus' flame, and lights my conscience with her burning brand through death and hell, to view the world's fair frame? Must I again re-greet my native land, whose graves resound the horror of my name? Richard. Some consciences with souls may hope for peace when all their venial and their petty crimes are expiate. But mine will never cease to augment my torment. Damned deeds in life, damned penance doth increase. Men's souls may fly their bodies' putrid climes, but horrid pains still cleave to foul offence. Nor will the sin forsake the conscience. None sensible of pleasure, but of pain, must look on me. Think ye that graves and hollow vaults inherit naught but oblivion? Fame bears about the world's circumference all deeds notorious, which time remembers. And since I'm raised from hell's burning lake, I'll fright the world and chase all forms of mirth from this now mimic and ridiculous stage. I sing of murder, tyranny, and rage. And that my devilish brain may not be dull, but touch the quick of each ambitious soul, I take the wittiest politician's skull that ever hell's black book did yet enroll, his mazer filled with Stygian juice, brimful and innocent blood. I quaff to all damned spirits, and I know well they'll pledge me, though they drink as deep as hell. Lo, I unclasp the book of memory, rouse bedrid age, foul sin, and smooth-faced error to sing my actions to posterity. In my conception, nature strove with kind to form a prodigy, the world to fright. My mother languished many a tedious hour, travail brought sweat and groans, at last she brought forth me. My legs came foremost, an unequal pair, which showed that no course fair should crown my life. Hollow my cheeks, upon my breast, black hair, the characters of spleen and virulent deeds, my beetle brow and fire-circled eye foreshowed me butcher in my cruelty. All to add to these, the amazed women started, for each jaw appeared with teeth, which mark made these ills good, that I should worry souls, suck human blood. In progress of my childhood, with delight, I taught my nature to see animals bleed. Oh, then at the slaughterhouse, with hungry sight, upon slain beasts my sensual part did feed, and that which gentler natures might affright, I searched their entrails, as in them to read, like the ancient bards, what fate should thence betide. Then, as I waxed in maturity, I would frequent the sessions and those places where guilty men received their dooms to die, as well to note the gestures and the graces of those who were cast, as of the judge's eye. How these look pale, and others front out faces e'en death itself. And hence I learned how to conquer pity. Now, to confirm these notions in my brain, and to chase thence all natural forms of good, I pressed to executions, to see men reeking in their sweat and blood. Oh, how remorseless was I of their pain. It was my cordial and my nourishing food. These ruthless thoughts were in my heart so rise that I could laugh at death and sport with life. And giving way, pernicious ills increased. Thus I found how pity lost and cruelty won her ground. Oh, in my designs I bore no waxen face to take the print of any forms within. I had a forge that tempered it like brass. Not by my tongue my heart was known or seen. Between these two there was so ample space that words and thoughts were never of akin. With threats I could allure, smile when I frowned, kiss when I killed, and heal when I did wound. Hence were my organs apt and parts disposed to give my intellect the forms of things. He that shadows tyrannous thoughts with clemency, and keeps his height with popular applause, may make his way to the chair of state. Oh, I gave myself corruptly to understand letters and arts whose superficial skill might lay the ground to propagate my ill. I did allow of colleges and schools and learned their logical distinction, yet I perceived the greatest clerks but fools. Oh, I heard their lectures, could digest their rules, and make good use of their division. Religion I professed, as most men saw, but in my heart denied it reverence, for I esteemed it as a penal law to curb and keep men in obedience. Proud of this knowledge, I scurried into the offices of state, and of that sought intelligence. Oh, there saw I public fortunes, private hate, in several tempers of impatience. Oh, I noted statesmen in their agitations, how they dispatched suitors that implored them. The followers of their fortunes and their fashions, oh, how like to demigods they did adore them. I learned likewise to appease an enemy in terms without hostility and war, to win an agent without jealousy, make him tractable and regular, and keep men longing still in patience. So, in the ship of state myself did fare, so I might rule and reign sole lord of all. At that time, my father York began his claim for the throne, whence civil and uncivil arms did grow, where sons by sires and sires by sons were slain, and England's commonweal a common woe. I, though too young as then to manage steel, my swelling veins and feeble nerves did feel the emulation of those hot alarms. My father's sword for title set on foot, whose fate grown ripe, he dropped to earth and perished. But we, the sons, I and my brother Edward, held in swift pursuit the royal game. Oh, our thoughts were jointly nourished with possession of that chased prize, the crown. Now with war's fair merits I mixed my blood with gall, my spleen with ire. Fame pricked us on that we were to inherit, and we made way through blood, nor could retire, till on the rubbish of our enemy we reared the ensign of our victory. Then was the kingly lion, Henry VI, held at bay, cooped in the tower, whose lioness, that Margaret, raged in vain to rescue or redeem our purchased prey. The devil whispered that my hands not died in Henry's gore, my hope to rise was vain. So my sword's sharp point brought his quietus est, which levelled to his heart, sent him to rest. Yet now, secure, brother Edward enjoyed the crown. War's stern alarums here began to cease. Banks turned to pillows, fields to beds of down, and boisterous arms to silken robes of peace. Whilst I grinned like a wolf, leered like a fox, to see soft men turned swine by Circe's charms. Oh, how I bit my tongue when Edward wived, that with the rest forced shouts of "God give joy!" when to the centre of my heart there dived curses and rancorous wishes to destroy, whilst wanton Edward dotes on mistress shore. My thoughts were climbing to the state of kings. Edward studied to be loved, I to be feared. Clarence, our other brother, his life, in fortune's fickle wheel, had now a slippery stand. Oh, for why? Well, an ignorant wizard, taught by me, took the letter G to work my rising and George's overthrow, and by a foolish, childish prophecy insinuates with the fearful king that G should put to death his royal progeny. So, harmless Clarence, superstitiously, is sent to the fatal tower, and at his journey's end, to quench his thirst and cool his bloody sweat, his gentle jailer, being my secret friend, did broach a butt of wine to allay his dangerous heat, but so soused him in't that he did send poor George to rest in everlasting seat. yet no tart wine. But Malmsey stopped his breath, so died he not the sharpest, but the sweetest death. Next, time another point begins to attain. When King Edward, all past the solstice of his years, his nature's course outwears. His scene is done. Death strikes him to the heart. So King Edward parts the stage, and now begins my part. Now, back-steeled Buckingham. I made my friend. Him I sustained with hope and fed with air, to further me in my aspiring end, in whom I found will, power, and faithful care. Buckingham, my spirit, I made my hand to employ his power to my command. Next, Rivers, Vaughan, Grey, did feel the vengeance of my fell despite, whose deaths did more secure my lawless claim. Poor, simple souls, they were to stand for right, not having strength. For virtue's power is lame. 'Tis desperate folly to oppose not strong, and sink with right. 'Tis better wink at wrong. So, I was regent made, protector to the princes. But more towers, more titles are my fancy's scope. Now I contract my wits, summon my senses to smooth the rugged way, the doors to ope that lead to state. Now, whilst I trembled in an agony, sole sovereignty with safest means contriving, my working head debates how I might reign. The princes living. So on I went in devilish politic wise. Oh, the young prince now, from safest sanctuary, the child being brought to me, I kissed and blessed with feigned sincerity, and thereafter did fulfill the part of Judas, for I meant to kill. Him with his brother lodged I in the tower. Now, whilst all wished to see young Edward crowned, and in each place a solemn preparation, in my vast sea their streams of joy were drowned. For Buckingham and I had laid the ground to suppress their station. I found tricks to impeach the prince's claim by law, proving mine true, theirs illegitimate. And to this end suborned one Dr. Shaw with servile tongue and spirited alterate to preach dead Edward's slander with my mother, and bastardize the issue of my brother. Oh, it was suggested then, most impiously, Edward nor Clarence to be lawful pairs, but to be the issue of some stranger sires, that Edward had with foulest bigamy blemished his stock, and had no rightful heirs. Thus, father, mother, brother, race and name, I would have vilified to advance my claim. Oh, the report went out, and whispering rumour drew from every quarter men of each condition to know the sequel, whether the stories were false or true, and to clear their doubts, and to inform suspicion to Paul's Cross, where the many-headed beast do flock and gather to hear strange tidings from their ghostly father. There Dr. Shaw stepped up. This was his theme. Bastard slips do never take deep root. Shaw, from his conduit pipe, sent such a stream as drenched his audience from head to foot. Oh, such clouted cream flowed from his wit, and from his tongue did shoot such spleenful venom, that all men, perplexed, feared he'd go mad running beside his text, where, having slandered Edward's progeny, defamed our mother with adultery, Edward nor Clarence got in lawful act, then proving me, though most preposterously, York's true-born son, by us it was compact that I, by miracle, should then come in the place, and at the instant of my praise, to meet with grace. To give more colour to this enterprise, my agent, Buckingham, with wit's high strains, prepares the city-states, men chiefly wise in giving way to things above their brains. These notable, wise, wealthy magistrates, these grey-haired sages, grave in saying little, my subtle Buckingham like wax had wrought. Oh, he brought to tender what I had sought, and being their mouth, delivered to a tittle both what they would and what ourselves forethought. Solicit me, they would, and they would have no name, to take the crown, the sceptre, and the sway. Oh, Buckingham shows the public good that would ensue, the people's general liking and applause, prevention of seditious plots that grew through want of execution of the laws, said that old sores would fester and renew if I took not the sword to right their cause. Behold us then, quoth he, with pity's eye of your accustomed grace and clemency. Then I, with heart-cheeked tongue, made this reply, that though I saw their heavy states with ruth, yet so much was my love's sincerity unto the promising hopes of Edward's youth withal, so loath to stain humility, professing seamless seal and naked truth, that I, unapt to rule and sovereignty, preferred content to highest monarchy. Buckingham, father, doth enforce, I deny. He pleads my right, and I dissemble strong. Objects the prince's confirmed bastardy, and still the maiden's part is all my song. At last he drives his subtle oratory to show of spleen, and that their lives I did wrong. And if, quoth he, you will not condescend, we must choose some other, and there's an end. So stooped I, so to rise, and being up, this fearful doubt there being thus decided, the factious peers now joined that were divided, with all solemn rites confirmed my reign. Long live King Richard. But now, having dyed my hands in human gore, Henry, Clarence, Rivers, Vaughan, Grey, Hastings, and so made black my soul, my wit, a plot doth cast to feed my ravenous appetite with more. My gorge was empty for a new repast. Now doth my conscience play the coward's part. My heart pants thick, my pulse beats slow and tender at the conception of a thought. shapeless darkness I was then confined, and everything that erst was my delight turned to a fiend. Broad waking I was blind, as if enfolded in the veil of night. Astonishment did all my senses bind, shame did appear, dead pity rose to light, when I conceived the murder of the princes. Yet thus my devilish spirit shook off this trance, and thus my demon chid. Oh, Richard, coward faint, did not thy wit above thy birth advance, cut knotty doubts and bars of all restraint? Shall thy superstitious fancy paint these heartless fears imaginary hell, and have a charm above thy politic spell? Oh, hast not made God a cloak to get a crown? Without all shame, parboiled thy blushless face, with conquering tyranny cast pity down, established wickedness, supplanted grace, and now, like to a man ready to drown, catch at a helpless thing. Why, Richard, this is base. Not like a kingly politician, but a poor, ignorant plebeian. What? Wilt thou thus run from thyself to error, plunging thyself into the depth of terror? If conscience fright and silent shame be feared, thou art no king, but of the popular herd. But having seared thy conscience, sealed thy blame, to unrip the womb again, why, this were shame. No, Richard, in thine own powers still be free, and what seems best think absolutely well. Confirm thy strength, make good thy policy, nor gainst thy name and dignity rebel, but wind into thyself. So plot and execute what thou thinkst best. Maintain thy power, diminish not thy sway, nor bound thyself, being a boundless king. But of thy state still propagate the sea, and take the tribute of each petty spring. Frame thy own circle, and then boldly say, this is my centre. Hither will I bring the lines of all my actions, fair or foul, and see what power or will can control. Richard, break ope thy black abyssus, and take thence worlds of advantages against the world. Be false and cruel still with impudence. From thine own heaven derive thy influence, and fiend-like fear be into darkness hurled. Thy sun to sun, thy stars to stars advance, and let thy pomp in golden mountains dance. So then, resolved, having thus debated with my tyrannous will, in my doom the princes' lives were dated, whose ominous being did impeach my reign. I thought myself not absolute instated, nor could make free use of my purchased gain, till without rival I might show my brow, one king in state, oh, one son the heavens allow. Now was my frosty coldness fully thawed, and my resisting fire found open vent. Then Buckingham, my artificial board, my hand, my factor, and my instrument, I grounded on to effect the complot of this murderous train. But here he stopped. Would by no means be brought to add this foulness to his former stain. Oh, his coldness moved my heat, which heat did bear the churlish temper of impatience, and now his love from memory I tear. Turn his obsequious service to offence. For politicians are no longer friends when friends can add no more to their main ends. Great Buckingham, thus paid with hateful frowns, I chose for him the malcontented mate, one that will kill his dearest sire for crowns, in hope to advance his long dejected state. And of this rank one Tyrrell I did frame to do this deed. And Tyrrell took 2 loathed slaves, 2 grooms, into this sink of shame. Tyrrell commanded, and the grooms did act. Even before the night that this was done, the headstrong winds did rage with hideous storm. As red as blood descends the fearful sun, and nature had put on a dismal form. Ravens and scritch owls bode the ensuing harm. Oh, then burst there forth an angry comet with a smoky train. All the fatal hour ushered by this ostent astonished all, and in the princes bred oraculous presages of the event, that they, like lambs, were to the slaughter led. Their spotless lives must clear the element. The angry comet thirsted to be fed with their heart bloods. They knew these storms would cease when they were lodged in their graves in peace. Thus divined the princes, and thought by zealous prayer to avoid the danger then so near. But those devilish grooms, whose dark deeds fly the light, with glaring eyes, cloaked in the veil of night, rushed in to act this murder on the princes. As they approach the bed where they repose, their drumming hearts panted their fierce alarms. To see the sweetness nature did disclose, that such beauty should lie ope to harms. Now, in the bed, and in dead sleep, those dregs of men, this spawn of earth, did bury them alive, and stopped their breaths. These men now are tortured with despair, and howl in horror of their murderous deed. Guilt mixed with fears, too late they find too well, that though they breathe on earth, they live in hell. And I, as one that drinks more than he can contain, surfeits in excess and dulls his taste, nor doth desist till his intellectual powers are so defaced that, losing the office of his feet, he lies shameful and naked to all sober eyes. So I, in thirst of glory, rule and state, drinking past my fill, drunk in ambition, that in my staggering pride I grew a monster and a scorn to all. Now all my acts of murder, sin, and shame appeared upon my head like a beacon fired upon a hill. Oh, now rumour gives the echo to my fame. Oh, uproars and insurrections begin to fill all places vast, and now in fear I start to fall. Thus, in the waning splendour of my pride, assailed with fears, in all my thoughts all torments multiplied, I found myself so weakly fortified against the powerful battery of despairs that I was plunged into hell's deep abyss. Then dreadful melancholy did convert my nature to the temper of my brain, which soaked with my spleen, disturbed my heart, and through my body spread a poisonous bane. It did confound my sense, and every part, each muscle, sinew, joint, and vein had lost their natural working. Such was the horror of my malady, distract with fear, that it corrupted every faculty. Thus my whole nature felt like sympathy with my despairful soul, for all the functions of my soul and sense were maimed by my wounded conscience. My reason dotes, my soul did idle sit, my understanding weak, unsound my sense, and every part unfit to comfort or relieve my conscience, hopeless and helpless. All my powers agree in desperation's gulf to swallow me. So not the mind alone, but body whole, equally feeling and alike distressed. Such watch they kept, such clamour did they make, that waking I did dream, and sleeping wake. Such was my passion of all faith bereaved, which should apply a salve unto my wound, that in my mind hell only was conceived, which did all thought and hope of heaven confound. Thus I found my state so desperate and my sins so great that no repentant means could expiate. Should I have filled the air with plaints and cries, have wrung my hands in grief, strained blood in fears, eat into marble with my still bent knees. Such was the clamour of my villainies and my despairs that nothing would satisfy the offended justice of the deity. Huge whales might sooner fly with feathered plume, and birds like worms creep on the base ground, ere I could hope or ever might presume by my repentance mercy to have found. For pressed with sin and of all grace bereaven, I could not lift one thought so high as heaven. Thus blasted with the whirlwind of God's breath, and shaken with the terror of his wrath, vengeance above me and hellfire beneath, so void of grace and so exempt from faith, what could I look for but eternal death? When drowsy Morpheus addressed my turbulent spirits to a quiet truce, my thoughts scarce gave me sleep, that sleep no rest, for the images of outward things did present unto my sleeping fantasy the horrid visions of my tyranny, whereon I found myself oft strangled through those dreams of terror. Such apparitions frighted me in sleep, that waking I was tranced and living, dying. But now, England's spirit doth begin to swell, whose spirit long suppressed breaks out in fire. Oh, the peers do stir, the commons do rebel, wrong and oppression do with rage inspire. Oh, factions now rend the state in several parts, swords in their hands and vengeance in their hearts. Oh, now the Lancastrian line, that scarce was seen with sword instead of pen, begins to raise the line of York, whose ink is blackest spleen to blot my glory and my name deface. The white rose, they say, must be joined with the red to propagate fair stems in one chaste bed. So one Richmond was espoused to sweet Elizabeth, my brother's daughter, and matched by fate. Oh, revenge looked big, and heaven began to shoot war's fiery darts, and now my glory's fame, founded on wrong and raised in blood and tears, begins to shake and fall about mine ears. First, Buckingham, whose hopes were vainly fed to break the ice for Richmond with his power, I marched against, and by good fortune sped. Oh, my stars herein did smile, and his did lower. I pricked him kindly. He as kindly bled. Oh, but Richmond hath set his foot upon my land. The wrong incensed peers augment his band and give his weakness a resistful force. Oh, of those that did my tyrannous yoke still bear, none lent their strengths in love, but all in fear. Distracted were their minds, their hearts were rent. Weak are the powers that fight upon constraint. Oh, of some I took firm hostage to assure them, and promised others mountains to procure them. I had a company of frozen hearts. All sought to lose rather than win the day, and seemed more Richmond's part than friends of mine. Yet these I termed true hearts with Fawcett style, and heartened them with many a heartless smile. Still Richmond comes on, relieved with still supplies and men of taintless name. Angels attend him with their imminent power. Auspicious are his stars, and mine do lower. The bloody field is pitched. Surveyed the ground, the sentinels are placed. Purdues are sent, soldiers entrenched and encamped around. And in the midst advanced my shining tent. Councils assembled, for directions found, advantages proposed for detriment, all things disposed, night comes. Strong watch we keep, when weighty cares do summon me to sleep. Methought I saw in my affrighting dreams my slaughtered numbers round about my bed, opening their wounded mouths in crimson streams and pouring blood upon my head. Methought I saw and heard the loathsome plight of dying men, how bound in frosts they lie, swimming in cold sweats, bereft of light, their entrails gnawn, pulse stayed, veins drawn dry, their rattling throats, third tongues, their broken sight, their gasping breaths, their earthy savour and expiring breath. Methought, likewise, the dismal ravens did croak as I approached my death. The earth did shake and conjured tempests which threw down turrets, roots, the stoutest oak. Then, from the clouds, the arm of vengeance waves and gives the signal to the bloody fight where thousand swords divide me. Violent distractions broke in sunder the heavy band that bound my senses fast. And up I rose. Then had I slept my last. I started from my trance with rageful teen, taking a dragon's spirit, a tiger's spleen. So I resolved to put on fiery wings, and in my end add spirit to my mind. Kings should soar high, although they drop to graves. Now was my battle ranged on Bosworth Plain. The vanguard ordered and the wings were set. Our standards both advanced in open fight. Summons are given to prepare the fight. My men with soldiers' rhetoric I excite, enforce the vileness of mine enemy, the injustice of his cause, of ours, the right. Our wealthy states, their desperate poverty, their fainting force, and our assured might. So I concluded with these heartening words: St. George for England, and for me your swords. Signal is given. The sound of death. Shouts, drums, trumpets deafen all our ears. Breasts, butts for shafts, swords in flesh do sheath. Horse meet with horse. Spears are lined with spears. Blood blends with blood, and life flies with life. Mazes to bills do stand for butcher's blocks. Fire twinned with lightning, thunder raged with shocks. Bellona raged not so as I did store. My lion spirit hunts Richmond. Richmond! Richmond for my prey. I outfaced death in his most ugly form, and through the thickest shocks I hewed my way. My spirit was like whirlwind, and mine arm a pointed comet in this cruel fray, streaming forth blood and foaming rage and gall. And then, as I had attained the wished ken of Richmond's self, by noted marks he wore, in bloody sweat I spurred through slaughtered men to quench my fiery spirit with his gore. Brandon, his valiant standard-bearer, then I slew, with stout opposers many more. And with spent blood, being weak on every part, I failed to set my seal on Richmond's heart. My horse being slain, with him I fell, and yet even then was not disanimate, for my spirit above my flesh did bound, till with their thickish troops enclosed round, and wrestling manly with malignant fate, they charactered in wounds my tyranny, and thus performed my bloody tragedy. My brain they dashed, which flew on every side as they would show my tracts of policy. My years with stabs, my days they multiplied in drops of blood to express my cruelty. They pierced my heart and mangled me like an anatomy. And then, with horses, dragged me to my tomb. And so, farewell, for back again I must unto the horrid shades. Now do I sink, as erst in pride I fell, and to leave fame on earth, thus dive to hell.